Connection is everywhere, but intimacy is almost extinct. Because modern dating made meeting effortless and emotional safety impossible. If we don't repair this emotional disconnect, we're raising a generation who can date but cannot attach. One of my clients is a 6'2", Ivy League educated, emotionally available man, and he told me, "I expect to be ghosted on every date now, even when the date goes well." After a thoughtful, expensive dinner, he even asked one of his dates point blank, "Are you going to ghost me after this?" She laughed and said no. Then she ghosted him. Another woman gave him feedback. She didn't want to see him again because he walked too fast. He looked at me in session and asked, "Am I the problem?" He's not alone. I see this story play out again and again. Men exhausted, women overwhelmed, and both sides terrified of being vulnerable first. People's red flags have become so severe that we're no longer dating each other. We're defending ourselves from each other. The fear is so high that we start canceling out the other person's humanity before we ever give them a chance. A recent business report projects that by 2030, nearly half of women between 25 and 44 will be single and child-free. Women are prioritizing autonomy, education, and financial stability. In the United States, more women than men graduate from undergraduate and graduate institutions, and more single women than men are first home owners. Among female-headed versus male-headed households overall, the gap has narrowed significantly. Women's higher educational attainment reflects a foundation that propels them toward deeper self-development and introspection. Yet, the culture that raised them to have it all forgot to teach them how to share it without guilt. As Esther Perel writes, "We are drowning in freedom and starving for connection." Before we dive into the lessons, I want to frame what I'm actually teaching you. What we're seeing in modern dating isn't a battle of the sexes, it's a collapse of emotional safety. Women are evolving rapidly in emotional self-awareness, healing, therapy, and communication. Men, on the other hand, were raised in a culture that taught them to fear vulnerability, suppress emotion, and perform instead of connect. So when these two worlds meet, it's not incompatibility, it's an emotional bandwidth mismatch. And the dating market only magnifies the gap. Performative profiles, constant comparison, public exposure, and algorithmic judgment. Connection has never been easier, but intimacy has never felt more dangerous. So here's what I'm going to break down next. Lesson 1 reveals the emotional fluency gap and why women feel alone while men feel inadequate. Lesson 2 shows how the dating market rewards performance instead of intimacy, pushing men into fear and women into frustration. Lesson 3 uncovers the grief underneath male detachment and why what looks like apathy is actually heartbreak. By the end of this video, you'll understand why so many men have stopped believing in love and how that disillusionment is not the end of intimacy, but the invitation to rebuild it on safer, stronger ground. And with that, let's begin. Lesson 1. Emotional fluency is the new status symbol. So what does all of this actually mean for modern dating? It means we're looking at a psychological gap, an emotional bandwidth mismatch that's shaping who connects, who detaches, and who gets left behind. My male clients end up withdrawing from competitive mating markets or prefer casual relationships when they feel they can't compete in status. It's the male loneliness epidemic. At the same time, women are engaging in emotional work at record levels. Therapy, books, podcasts, attachment theory. Men, on average, are socialized away from emotional fluency. APA data shows women attend therapy nearly twice as often. Neuroscience suggests men emotionally mature about 5 years later. I often use the emotion wheel in session because men struggle even naming their feelings. Some have been labeled with alexithymia, emotional blindness. Women look at me in disbelief when I tell them attuned men do exist. Men look at me in defeat when they ask, am I the problem? And this gap creates women exhausted from overfunctioning, men overwhelmed by expectations they never learned to meet. It's not a war of the sexes, it's two nervous systems on different Wi-Fi speeds. So women are evolving faster in self-awareness, while many men are still decoding what a feeling even is. It's not that men don't want depth, they were never socialized to speak its language. That's what I call AA work, attachment awareness, learning emotional accountability, communication, and co-regulation. Women are practicing it daily. Men are just starting to learn the alphabet. That's why I created a free masterclass called the Fantasy Love Decoder to help you decode why love today feels more like performance than connection. You'll learn how to create intimacy that feels safe, not strategic. Click the link below to watch it now. Lesson 2. The dating market rewards performance, not intimacy. Now let's go even deeper into the mechanics of this, because emotional fluency is only half the story. The other half isn't psychological, it's structural. It's the dating market itself and how it's training us to perform instead of connect. Apps are built on novelty, not commitment. Profiles are curated auditions, and for men, any misstep can be shared in a viral Facebook thread that gets them fired. In this world, connection doesn't feel sacred, it feels dangerous. Profiles often say, figuring out my dating goals, or the paradox, looking for long-term, open to short-term, scaring off commitment-minded partners before the first date. Algorithms amplify trivial red flags like must have an electric toothbrush, while empathy, accountability, and communication get buried. Freedom has never been greater, and neither has loneliness. Women, naturally hypergamous, tend to seek equal or higher status partners, but the pool of men who meet the modern ideal is statistically tiny. In egalitarian or post-industrial societies, this drive can persist even when women are self-sufficient, leading to frustration and perceived scarcity of suitable partners. Some women's wish lists now sound like 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, 6-pack abs, 6 months of therapy, emotionally fluent, confident but humble, ambitious but always home by 7, green diet, rescues dogs, property owner, attachment aware, basically a Zen Buddhist Ryan Gosling with secure attachment. Less than 1% of men meet all of those metrics. It's not that standards are unrealistic, it's that statistics are unforgiving. And even the men who do meet those standards are struggling, as you heard in the stories above. To level the playing field for men, Hinge now requires women to pay to filter men based on height. Many men aren't avoiding love, they're avoiding failure at love. When relationships feel like auditions, exposure becomes humiliation. Facebook groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy? Let hundreds of thousands of women compare stories and protect each other. The intent is safety. The effect is complex. For many men, the fear of appearing in those threads creates a new paranoia that a screenshot could reach their coworkers or employers. The romantic market and the job market have merged. Authenticity feels dangerous, Image management feels mandatory. Under that pressure, many retreat even further from vulnerability. Lesson 3. Vulnerability feels like exposure, not safety. So what happens when you combine emotional illiteracy with a dating market built on performance and exposure? You get the collapse of vulnerability, and that collapse is reshaping what men fear and what women interpret as apathy. When rejection feels like humiliation, men retreat into detachment, workaholism, or casual sex. It's not that they don't want intimacy, it's that they've confused emotional risk with emotional danger. What we're witnessing isn't apathy, it's grief. Economists call it the dating market mismatch. Women's standards are climbing while emotionally available partners are shrinking. Another ripple is what sociologists call the male intimacy recession. Surveys from the General Social Survey and Pew Research show a sharp rise in the number of men reporting no romantic or sexual relationships. Economic strain, digital isolation, and emotional illiteracy all contribute. Some men turn inward into withdrawal or numbness. Others externalize the wound. When closeness feels unreachable, a few chase power instead of connection, pursuing much younger or less experienced partners, not for love, but to feel dominant again. Or to feel the illusion of safety and knowing the women won't see past their BS. It's a defense, not a plan. When vulnerability feels fatal, control becomes the counterfeit of intimacy. The masculine psyche, trained to equate worth with performance, interprets rejection as annihilation. So they build armor, detachment, irony, workaholism, casual sex. It's grief wearing indifference. In my clinical work, I've seen men on the narcissism and compulsive sexual spectrum whose behaviors collided with this digital transparency. When countless womanizing deception or infidelity became public through those same groups that are alive in each city, are we dating the same guy? Some felt forced to leave entire cities. Their reputations imploded, shame followed offline. But relocation isn't redemption. When flight replaces reflection, the same relational patterns reappear in new environments. It's the classic repetition compulsion, trying to outrun consequences instead of confronting why women were out for their blood. Without therapy, they rebuild the same cycle: brief charm, emotional chaos, collapse, until accountability replaces avoidance. Pros in lying, seduction, cheating, and manipulation. They are like lions that can smell wounded gazelles, women with severe attachment wounds and low self-esteem, or naive young women. And they prey on their psychological wounds or lack of experience. They brag about their conquests, and I call out their predatory behavior that lurks in the smirk, and they nod in agreement, wanting to change, but not knowing how from the inside out and not the outside in. Today's dating world mirrors that armor: curated, performative, replaceable, and a new anxiety shadows it: public exposure. True intimacy requires equality, empathy, and self-awareness. The very skills our culture still teaches men to suppress. Until emotional literacy is treated as strength, many will keep mistaking manipulation for power and loneliness for freedom. When men stop believing in love, they're mourning the loss of a world where trust felt private. They remember when choosing someone wasn't a liability, but a direction. Disillusionment isn't apathy, it's grief. And grief means the capacity for love is still alive. Love cannot survive as an algorithmic pursuit. It thrives only when vulnerability feels safer than performance. Draper's tragedy wasn't that he couldn't love, it's that he mistook perfection for protection. Believing in love again means risking exposure for the sake of truth. Happiness is the moment before you need more happiness. Therefore, all of this behavior brings us to the emotional core of the crisis. Not the statistics, not the apps, not the algorithms, but the grief underneath them. If this resonated and you're interested in the topic of what keeps us separate from one another, watch my next video on why chemistry feels like love, but is actually your nervous system chasing danger. Click here to watch it now.